Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we all doing? It's great to have everybody here. I think we have a fair representation. So we're going to start the meeting now. I can give us an opening prayer.
Okay. Can we close our eyes wherever we are? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Father God. We thank you, Lord, that we are gathered. We invite you, Holy Spirit. May you guide us. May you give us wisdom as we are discussing Voice One Africa. May you give us creative ideas, creative intelligence. May we lead in peace and love. May it be a fruitful meeting in the mighty name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Oluntu. Okay, so the next on the agenda, everybody has the agenda. So we're just going by the agenda. There's apologies. I don't know, with the secretariat, has anybody informed you of his or her absence? Secretariat.
Yes, please. Elam said he would not be able to make it.
Okay.
And he told me he informed you. I'm sure
Yes.
he. Yeah.
Far as I'm aware, aside Elom is part of the secretariat. Um, okay, so aside Elom, with the steering committee, I've not had any apologies from anybody. Okay, so the next, let's keep the swearing in of new steering committee members. So in our previous meeting, we had the commissioner swear in the steering committee, those who were present. It's important because the steering committee is going to set up other institutions or other bodies, and the steering committee itself needs some form of authorization, which is why we need to swear the steering committee in. And so the steering committee, those who were sworn in previously are officially the members of the steering committee. Those that were not sworn in officially are not members of the steering committee. So, and as communicated on the page, all those who were sworn in, we need to sign our official oath and email it to the Voice1Africa at gmail.com so that we'll be able to have those documents. They are official documents which need to be filed. So please do well. If you've not submitted yours, please fill it, sign, and send the email so that we'll have that on file. So we're going to just wait a little. I'll shift item 3 to later when we have some people are still coming in. When we have more of our colleagues here, then we'll swear those who were absent in. Consideration and approval of minutes. So please, let's open our minutes, the minutes of the previous meeting, and quickly go through it. Then we'll move the motion to accept. So let's start from page 1. Is there any concern on page 1? So we're looking at the names. It says, the date of the meeting. Is there any issue with the first page? You check if your name is not spelled correctly, your country is misplaced, just let us know. Page 2, is there any, there are just 2 pages, right? Yeah. So on page 2, is there any issue? Okay, I believe we've read the minute though, because it's one of our responsibilities. These minutes and reports will be published. And so if you are misrepresented or a particular idea or communication came up and it's not reflected in these minutes, then it means that whatever you communicated is not captured. And so it will be left out. As part of our transparency, we are going to be publishing our reports and our minutes on the website. So we must take note. Okay, if there are no issues, will we have any member to move for the acceptance of this minutes?
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, it's Mujida. Yes, I would like to move for the adoption of minutes of the last meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Who is seconding Mujida?
All right, I will second the minutes.
Okay, so seconded by Mandisa. All right, the next item on the agenda is matters arising. And to do that, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so this is the second steering committee meeting, and we'll basically be talking about the roles and responsibilities of the steering committee. The outline, we're going to talk about the vision briefly, vision, mission, and the way forward, because some people were absent from last meeting. And then we'll talk about the job description. The third item, we'll look at the establishment of the standing committees, administrative, communicative, and finance committees. Then we'll talk about the vision for 2021, and then any other business. As you know, the percentage of the African population under 25 years at present is 70%. That's about 226 million youth. And by 2030, this is going to increase to 1.3 billion. And even though this is strategic positioning for Africa, it also presents some challenges because at present, 60% of the jobless in Africa are within the youth, you know, and there's a lack of confidence, which is leading to lack of necessary skills. And also there's a lack of potential jobs, like people don't know where to find potential jobs and career path decisions. And so there's a general feeling of hopelessness among the youth. This research-based, and it's connected to the crime rates that we see on the continent. So we have a lot to do. And then we define the youth as persons between 14 years and 35 years, considering the United Nations and the African Youth Charter. The call to action is that there's a need for mentoring. And we, as members of the steering committee and the youth, the middle class in particular, we have exposures, we have experiences and knowledge and networks, and we do have something to offer to this rising youth population. And why we need to act now is because the independence of Africa lies in youth power and not in the politicians. And so for us to get a progressive Africa where the needs of the youth are met, Africa needs to be strong. And for Africa to be strong, we need to have a united Africa. And the liberation of Africa is in our unity. And fortunately, we have to our advantage technology and social media. And we have a large youth demographic, the largest in the world by 2050. And also we have the willingness and commitment of persons like yourself and myself who are here to help and to impact and prepare and mentor the next generation. Also, as we said, now this is a youth-led approach to generating a strong, united, and progressive Africa. And we're going to do so by deconstructing nationalism and projecting Pan-Africanism. Basically, we're talking about integrating Africa and doing so at the community level, from a bottom-up approach. So Voice1Africa is a non-profit organization. We are a grassroots organization, meaning that we work at the community level, and we're working with community groups, school clubs, and things. We are in direct contact with the community. And we're going to empower African youth regardless of their location, whether it's geographical location or a socioeconomic location, through the consciousness of identity. We're using education and advocacy to get the youth involved in building the kind of Africa that we want. And what's the vision? Our vision is to have a knowledgeable and a confident African youth committed to building a strong, united, and progressive Africa. An Africa that has an equal voice on the global platform. An Africa where dreams come alive for its people. So we're here to contribute to the establishment of the United States of Africa with abundant opportunities and proud citizens within our generation and beyond. Our mission is therefore to generate an active youth involvement in the direction and growth of the continent through dynamic advocacy and civic education, capacity building, and generally creating avenues for conversation. And we're using art, media, and culture in all its forms. So basically, we're going to create open up conversations to hear what the youth has to say and project these voices. Yeah, so I'm going to skip this. We have really a lot. We'll be working with a community of knowledge practice, and all these were presented in our previous meeting. So our channels and our output, we're working at the grassroots level, community groups and school clubs, We're working with events, conferences, camps, comedy, music, poetry. We're looking at art exhibitions, painting, photography. We're looking at entertainment and media, movie, beach parties, walks, cleanups. These are the ways we are engaging the youth and creating spaces for conversation. And then social support, counseling, career vision, goal setting, education. Now, with the organizational structure, we're going to have regional secretariats, we're going to have the national chapters, and then the community groups and the social clubs. But at the top, we're going to have the 3 continent-wide community of knowledge practice, which is composed of practitioners, researchers, and policymakers. And then there'll be a president and a vice. Okay, so this is the core of our discussion today. At present, what do we have, or what have we achieved? We have been able to establish the chair and the vice chair of the steering committee. So we have partly completed the setting up of the steering committee, this steering committee. The reason why it's partly executed is because we don't have all countries represented, and that's why it's partly executed. However, we have a lot to do. The white component indicates pending activities. So we are yet to set up the board charter and establish our bylaws, human resource policy, conflict of interest policy, sexual harassment policy, communication reporting policy, finance and policies and procedures, then the general terms and conditions guiding the Voice1Africa initiative. So the national chapters are yet to be established. The community-wide, continent-wide communities of knowledge practice yet to be established. Regional secretariats yet to be established. So that's a lot of work that's yet to be done. Job description for members of the steering committee. The steering committee is the founding body of Voice1Africa. So it's our core mandate to establish Voice1Africa and ensure the presence and the representation across the African continent and in the diaspora. So as a member of the steering committee, you should know that you are a founding member of Voice1Africa. And with that being said, even though I may have initiated the whole thing, every member of the steering committee is a founding member, and it's very crucial. We need to understand that. And so our explicit responsibility is to develop policies and the legal framework to guide the establishment and operation of Voice1Africa, to recruit qualified, strong, and competent board members for the national chapters, to execute the formal registration and institutionalization of the national chapters, and also to recruit members of the 3 continent-wide communities of knowledge practice, and also recruit a qualified, strong, and competent overall president and vice, who will work closely with the communities of knowledge practice, and then to establish the regional secretariat. So this is our core responsibility as the steering committee. Our general responsibilities is that, diversity, uniqueness, and individuality, and a heart of pure service is what we desire and require from the founding steering committee. So every member here needs to be unique and somebody who has service at heart, right? So we don't want a rubber stamp kind of steering committee where everything goes. We need to question issues. We need to make sure we understand what's going on and push the agenda of Voice1Africa forward. As a member of the steering committee, you have a duty and a responsibility to ensure that the current landscape, the current and future landscape of Voice1Africa is healthy and productive. Your obligation falls within 3 categories. First, you have a duty of care. We all have a duty of loyalty and a duty of obedience. So with a duty of care, what are we looking at? We are touching on legal duties. As a member of the steering committee, you need to be an active participant. You need to vet issues and concerns that are brought to the table, clarify and make sure you understand every fact, so that when you are making a decision, you know that what you are saying, you really understand it, and you are representing the youth from your country. Commitment to compliance, transparency, and accountability to safeguard Voice1Africa from legal troubles. And also with recruitment and human resource duties. As a member of the steering committee, it's your duty to ensure that there's a strong and a competent leadership, both at the national level, at this steering committee, and also at the community of knowledge practice level, to make sure that the steering committee, and we can offset this to a committee, who work and submit it to the General Steering Committee for us to work on. And you also have a fundraising commitment as one of your duty of care. You have a duty to participate in fundraising. You have to contribute to the conceptualization and the execution of the profitable fundraising programs. And you also have a responsibility to make a personal annual donation to the organization, all of us as members of the steering committee. And with financial matters, aside these fundraising activities and all that, we need to oversee, or you need to make sure, you have the responsibility to ensure that financial earnings are well documented, and also donations, grant monies, government support, all the financial, you have an oversight over earnings and financial issues regarding the organization, as well as asset management. So your duty of obedience touches on ethical integrity, monitoring and evaluation, and also avoidance of conflict or resolution of conflict. So as a member of the steering committee, you are responsible for the formulation of bylaws. We've already seen these bylaws that we need to formulate. And also you have a responsibility for making decisions and presenting yourself in a virtuous and ethical manner to also project the credibility of Voice1Africa. In terms of monitoring and evaluation, you have a responsibility to routinely and actively get involved in the monitoring and strengthening Voice1Africa's programs and services. For now, our core program is the Africa We Want program, where we are engaging the youth of Africa to share the African dream, right? So that's the core program. So your responsibility is to monitor and see how this program is going and to make recommendations. And also you have a responsibility to monitor your own individual performance, your own performance on this steering committee, and also the performance of this full steering committee. Your other responsibility is to ensure that you avoid conflicts and also resolve conflicts between committee members. Your duty of loyalty is captured under compliance to the vision and the mission of Voice1Africa, your commitment to meetings, confidentiality, conflict of interest, and then promoting Voice1Africa. So with regard to vision and mission, it's your responsibility to make sure that all the decisions that we make, including votes, policy, bylaws, regulations, fall squarely within the vision and mission of Voice1Africa. So if we are drifting, or it's your responsibility to bring us back to the purpose of this organization. And also with regard to commitment to meetings, you are obliged, it's a responsibility for you to attend all steering committee meetings. The reason this is because, voting, decision-making is important. In every meeting, we make decisions. And so your absence will impact on the decisions that are made. Besides, we need your input because every member of the steering committee has something to offer, right? And we are going to determine in this meeting how many times can a member be absent before the steering committee takes any action regarding the member's status as a member of the steering committee. And also the confidentiality clause. Even though we intend to publish our reports and minutes on the website to put out to involve the youth, transparency, some key decisions and deliberations will be considered confidential, and those will be saved or stored separately from the minutes or reports, right? They'll be graded confidential. So such confidential information must be upheld. And as a member of the steering committee, it's your responsibility to ensure that you keep things that are confidential. The conflict of interest. We want to make decisions that are in the best interest of Voice1Africa, in the best interest of the youth of Africa, and not in our personal interest, right? So when we're making a decision, you realize that this has something to do with you and there's a possible conflict of interest. What you need to do is to declare. Then we all know that there is a conflict of interest, then we know how to deal with it as far as you're concerned. Promote Voice1Africa cause and advocate Voice1Africa within your circles, and also build cordial relationships with each other. The specific responsibility, most of them are captured, regularly attending steering committee meetings and other activities, because in your country, when the country chapters are established, there will be actual meetings and events, groundbreaking events and fundraising events that you have to attend, represent Voice1Africa. As a member, you need to take seriously your commitment to the standing committee, because every member is going to be part of the standing committee. You have to be constant, reviewing documents like the minutes. We need to review the minutes. We need to review documents that will be discussed in the meetings. So we're going to share, for example, the policies. The documents will be shared before the meeting, and you need to review them and be conversant with what we are going to discuss. Come up with constructive ideas and issues to contribute to the discussion and also the progress of what we are doing. So it's a responsibility. You have to volunteer and be willing and willingly accept assignments, complete them thoroughly. You stay informed about the committee matters and prepare yourself for meetings. You update yourself with recent developments in our area of interest. Also, you need to assist the steering committee to examine Voice1Africa's annual financial statement, and you spread the word about Voice1Africa and seek partnerships for its operation. You also need to submit names of nominees who are of great potential to contribute to the steering committee's work and to Voice1Africa in general. Secretariat, please take note of everybody who is present. Okay, so like I was saying, we need to submit names of nominees because we need to have a fair representation of most of the countries within the continent. And you know people from different countries. Everybody in this committee was invited by me. And you need to also bring people from your circles, from other countries who you feel have great potential to contribute to what we're doing. And we need to abide, as a member, you need to abide with the organization's rules and regulations. You need to build collegial working relationships with members of this committee. And you need to be versed with Voice1Africa's mission, vision, and the policies and programs that are ongoing. Yeah, and finally, you also contribute to the annual evaluation and planning efforts for Voice1Africa, and any other duties and delegations by the chair and vice chair. When you are assigned, you embrace it and do it. In terms of financial commitment and fundraising, you need to ensure that there is an annual fundraising plan. You also need to ensure that we execute and monitor the results of this fundraising plan. You identify and cultivate relationships with potential donors and support Voice1Africa's annual giving program by yourself being a generous giver and attending fundraising events, make annual personal financial contributions, and participate in fundraising. Who can be part of us? We need to discuss this, whether we need to come out with like some educational qualification or all that. But what we have here, drawing from several documents I reviewed, is people who have a commitment and energy to support Voice1Africa and our values. So the person should have an understanding of the mission and goals and programs and the services of what we are doing. Now, anybody who's going to join us will be vetted because we have content out there and a person can review these and have a fair understanding of what we are doing. And also, the person should have a strong leadership and collaborative skill to support the chair and the work of the steering committee. The person should have a strong facilitation and communication skills and an understanding of group process. The person should also be objective so that dialogue is progressive or productive and contributes to engagement from all sides. We don't want argumentative people. You know, there are people who are just into making arguments and causing confusion. That's not what we are looking for. We're looking for people who contribute to the discourse and lead to a progressive and advancement, not people who stall discussions and deliberations. And also decisiveness. The person should be decisive in order to tackle and resolve difficult issues. And the person should have a strong organizational skill. In terms of criteria for evaluation, every member of this committee will be evaluated at the end of the year. And how are we going to be evaluated? We're going to use the extent to which we have met our targets and our goals. So you will be evaluated based on the extent to which this committee has met its targets and goals. And also how excellently you executed and submitted tasks assigned you on time. And also the perception that other steering committee members have of you in terms of fairness and open to other points of views, decisiveness, contribution to culture that focuses on results and achievements. And also you will be evaluated based on the perception of volunteers and staff supporting or adding value to their work. And finally, you'll be evaluated based on the perception of the majority of stakeholders in terms of how fair, constructive, representative you have been to the youth of Africa, and to the Pan-African agenda. Also need to bring out clearly that even though we are recruiting members to join the steering committee and Voice One Africa in general, it's largely based on volunteerism. So members of the steering committee are voluntarily going to offer their services to this nonprofit or Voice One Africa, and therefore no member is being paid. And however, in the future, when there is sufficient funding, the Voice One Africa steering committee will receive some allowances, and also qualifying members will be considered first when there are vacancies for recruitment within the organization, using the policies laid out in the human resource policy. And also training and other opportunities for capacity building will be available for members of this committee through the work of the administrative committee. So this is the first part. I'll open up for comments, questions. So are there any questions?
I think the presentation is really cool, really exciting. Well prepared and presented.
Thank you. So we are just finished speaking about the role of members of the steering committee and who could be part of the steering committee, and also the fact that our work is on a volunteer basis. Okay. So let me just continue with the job description for the chair of the steering committee. The chair of the steering committee is a member of the steering committee elected by the steering committee and reports to the steering committee. The chair of the steering committee is going to serve for 2 years, as was decided in our previous meeting, and is renewable for one other term with approval of a majority votes of the steering committee. The chair of the steering committee is ultimately responsible for building a strong and accountable steering committee, approving strategy, recruiting steering committee members, national executive directors, and board members with competencies that are most needed for the organization to thrive, as well as approving annual budgets. He or she is responsible for making sure that everybody plays by the rules and must hold each board member accountable with regard to attendance of meetings, committee service and fundraising commitment and all that. So please bear with me as the chair if I am constantly pushing on all of us to be productive members of this committee, because it's part of my responsibilities as the chair. And also I'm sure when we look at the vice chair, you see the similar roles as well, right? So this is a serious organization, is a serious board, and would require every member of the steering committee to be an active member. Yeah, so as the chair needs to ensure a high-performing governance function that evaluates board members' performance. Approving strategy, the chair would have to work with the steering committee and make sure that there's strategy in place, and this strategy is owned and championed by all leaders of the organization. That is you, members of the steering committee, and also approve annual budgets. Specific roles of the chair is that he's the chief volunteer of the organization. He recognizes his role and gives financial commitments is solid. Is a partners with chief executives of national chapters and regional secretariats in achieving the organization's mission. Provides leadership to the steering committee, chairs meetings of the steering committee, engages steering committee roles in strategic planning, appoints the chairpersons of committees in consultation with other members of the steering committee, and serves ex officio as a member of committees and attend their meetings when invited. It also discusses issues confronting the organization with the vice chair. It reviews with the vice chair any issues concerning the steering committee, monitors financial planning and financial reports, informally evaluates the effectiveness of the steering committee and members, evaluates annually the performance of the organization, and so basically the function of the steering committee. The vice chair is also a member of the steering committee elected by the steering committee and reports to the steering committee. In this case, we have Mandisa, and she supports the chair, and also serving for 2 years, renewable for one other term with approval of majority votes. The vice chair is the secondary volunteer leader of the Voice One Africa steering committee, and as such discharges the duties of the chair as required in the chair's absence. The vice chair supports the activities of the chair, including sharing responsibilities as appropriate. So her responsibilities, or the vice chair's responsibilities, are similar to the chair, only that that this position assists the chair. So same in terms of funding and fundraising, works closely with the chair to assist developing agendas for the meeting, advises chair on appointing volunteers to keep leadership positions, assist the chair by taking on responsibilities as necessary for communication with subcommittees. Chair supports and challenges the chair in keeping with the governance concerns and issues of the steering committee, represents the steering committee in community and especially at events where the chair cannot attend, serves as a liaison for subcommittees, performs general responsibilities as a member of the steering committee, and any other duties as delegated by the chair. So that is it for the job description of the steering committee, the chair, and the vice chair. So we'll open up for discussion briefly, then we'll go into establishing the standing committees. So let me stop sharing my screen now. Please, this is what this is the job description for members of the steering committee, and then the chair and the vice. We need to adapt this job description so that it will be functional and official, formal. So what do we say? Do we have any questions with this? Do we agree? What don't you agree with? Let's look at it. And we've already sent this to everyone. We shared this. Sorry, Luntu, we couldn't share this with you in person, but then we shared it on the WhatsApp page. So everybody had access to it prior to this meeting.
So my question is, so with this initiative, is it focused mainly on arts and culture, like poetry and the other activities you mentioned?
Okay, so these are tools, the tools we are using to engage the youth and to project the voices of the youth is arts, media, and culture. But our objective, as you saw, the vision is to create or to get knowledgeable and confident youth who are committed to building a strong, united, and a progressive Africa. So the arts, media, and culture are the tools that we are using to lead to that. And so we're using this media to attain the mission, which is to open up conversations, create avenues for conversation, to project the concerns of the youth.
Okay, thanks. One last question. So with regards to the steering committee, is there some form of background, kind of expertise or knowledge that, since you say that we should also kind of recruit members from other countries and whatnot, because I mean, you mentioned the caliber, like the character in terms of organizational skills, leadership and all that. But in terms of knowledge and is there like a specific requirement, or is it just open to any kind of, if maybe I'm a computer scientist, like I can, be part of the steering committee? Yeah.
So we need to determine that for sure we need lawyers on board. Londre is currently studying law, he's not completed. But because we're working on a lot of policies, we need lawyers on board, at least maybe 1 or 2 lawyers on board would be good. It would be good to get a social media strategist on board as well. Yeah. So these kind of details will be discussed. We need to discuss that, but these two kind of people, we need people in media, music production, journalism. So
Thank you so much.
Question. It's good.
Okay, great presentation.
Oh, thanks. So with a job description, everybody, we need to adapt the job description, then becomes a functional document. So if we have questions regarding that, please let us know. So by the end of this meeting, we need to adapt it. Now, let me share the vision for 2021. Then we'll discuss that as well. I'm sorry, this particular meeting is a lot of presentations that will end soon. So to the establishment of the standing committees, We have 3 standing committees, and we're going to establish that today in this meeting. The Administrative Governance and Welfare Committee. They are basically responsible for human resource activities, recruiting, appraisal, training, thinking through the best way to sustain welfare at the grassroots level. That's the effective social support system. And so that's the role of the Administrative Governance and Welfare Committee. The second is the Finance, Partnership, and Business Development Committee. And their responsibility, annual fundraising plan, they need to draw that, drafting and sending out funding and partnership proposals, financial reports and budgeting, business development. The responsibility of this committee is to bring in money and business for Voice1Africa. And then the next committee is the Communication, Publicity, and Awareness Creation Committee. And their responsibility is largely based on branding, marketing, communications, both internal communication within the organization and external communication. The reports we send out, our minutes, our reports, all those things, active social media presence and engagement and publications. So these are the 3 standing committees. I would want every member of this steering committee to evaluate their strengths and their skills and talents and choose to commit to be part of one of these standing committees. The terms of reference of each of these committees will be made available. And we must note that we will be working with volunteers. So as a committee, this is your responsibility. You meet and discuss, but you have other competent people who are volunteers who will be working with you to get this done. So do not be scared. It's a lot of work, but there will be help. There will be good help to get all this done and accomplished. So please go to the chat and indicate which of these committees you're going to serve in. Choose one committee to be part of. Please, let's do that now as I continue with the presentation. Thank you. The vision for 2021 and targets. So we need to formulate our policies, the board charter, the HR policy, conflict of interest policy, sexual harassment policy, communication reporting policy, the financial policy and the procedures and the general terms and conditions. We need to do that this year before December 2021. And also the Africa We Want, gathering the dreams of the youth of Africa. This is our main program for the year. And so we're continuing. And I want every member of the steering committee to know that this is not my program, neither is it somebody's program. It is our program. And so as I'm in Cape Town now, I'm engaging with people here, gathering their dreams, wherever you are on this continent, you're in Nigeria, Liberia, Sierra Leone, wherever, you're also doing same. And then we've created a WhatsApp group for volunteers, and Mandisa is going to share that on our platform now so that everybody will have access to it. Then you also share it and invite people to join Voice1Africa. So these volunteers will firstly share their African dreams, and then they'll also get their friends to share their African dreams. So we are collating these dreams in video form, audio form, flyers, in terms of just, if you Google hashtag Voice1Africa, you're going to see a lot of these African dreams that have been shared. And yeah, so that's a responsibility we need to commit to. And also the release literary works, music, poetry. Nani is an excellent poet, and I know she has some good things there. And articles. Richard, I don't know if Richard is part of us now, but he said he was going to join. So Richard has written some nice articles. So what we can even do is friends who are not necessarily part of the steering committee, but we can commission people to write articles and opinion pieces, and which will feature on our website and on our social media accounts as well. So Voices of the Youth, the Africa We Want book, and also we'll publish. So at the end, the Africa We Want, all the dreams that we gather, we're going to assess and do an evaluation of it, and we're going to generate it into a book, which will be published. Then we also need to register our presence in at least 15 countries by the end of December 2021. So we're saying that by December 2021, Voice1Africa national chapters, at least 15 national chapters should be established. And we need to build a solid social media presence on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. We have our accounts. a minimum, we should have at least 10,000 followers on all of these accounts. So on our, as I mentioned, we have a WhatsApp volunteer platform now, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we gather volunteers from the continent, across the continent, both French speaking, English speaking, whichever language on this platform. And also members, I've made members admins of our Facebook page. For those that are connected on Facebook, I've made you an admin. So please accept the invitation admin role. And you also need to invite people from your circles. At present, you see on Facebook, we have about 205 people, which are all from my network. So we need you to also invite people from your network to join so that we can meet these targets that we've set for ourselves. And we need to discuss how to make our platforms more inclusive for both French speaking and English speaking youth. Okay, so submitted our final logo, Jonah from Nigeria. So these were the recommendations that were made from our previous meeting. We included Madagascar. We changed the motto from one continent, from one nation to one continent. So one continent, one people, one vision. And then we have the black and the white, and we also have the tree. The greenery is represented as well. So this is our final logo. And then we have the banners for the backdrop. Yeah, so that's it. On our social media, on all social media platforms, we are at Voice1Africa, as you can see. So it's our responsibility. Every member should, I want to give every member a chance now. Please go on the social media. This is on Instagram. Currently, we have 17 followers, which is terrible. Yeah, but we only have 3 posts. Yeah, but we need to build this to 10,000 minimum by the end of the year. And then on Facebook, this is YouTube. On YouTube, we have 11 subscribers. Okay, 62 views for some of 42 views for some of our videos, but we need to increase this to at least 10,000. And on LinkedIn, we have 27 connections. So there's work. So let's all connect and push these social media platforms. On Facebook, we have 207. As I mentioned, these are people I've invited, and so you also need to invite people to join from your network. So first, accept the invite I've given to you as an admin. You accept the role, then you'll be able to invite people to connect and to join. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Mesdames Wase. Merci beaucoup. So now what we have to do is to discuss all these things that have come up. The points you noted, this is the time. Let's have our discussion. With a vision, as was said, are there any concerns? Do you feel it's attainable?
Yeah, I guess because I didn't get the PowerPoint prior, so I'm still trying to, get into groups. But I really love the fantastic concept that you have come up with.
Yeah, this is.
And I feel like it is viable actually.
So SoundMind, is there somewhere? What do you think? This also your first meeting. You're just witnessing what we're having, the discussion. Yeah, Mujida is back.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much. It's been wonderful going through the whole thing. I've been watching some of the videos that have been produced so far, and they are mind-blowing. And first of all, I want to commend your beard. Is really, really rebranding the last time I saw you and now. Okay, looking at it, I'm still trying to find my feet in the whole thing. I think maybe we would have to talk, but generally the idea is powerful, I must tell you. And, getting some of the details that I didn't get while watching the videos is really mind-blowing. I think at least I can understand a little bit what is being projected out there. And I think further discussions with you can make me really find my feet and then contribute my quota. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Salman. So Samuel Chibuke, yeah, is from Nigeria. Pleased to have you. Mujida, yeah, you dropped out at some point, but given I don't know whether you saw the vision, we have 9 minutes, but what do you have to say?
Okay, I I think we've had a very good deliberation, and I'm quite impressed at the level of coordination that you and Mandy have put into this. It's quite commendable. And I'm also glad that Chibuike is here. I'm really glad that he's here. When I saw him, I was like, oh, Chibuike is here, great. So I hope together
Mojida, I'm so glad seeing you here. Honestly, it's an opportunity again to work together with you, and it's an honor. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I'm more optimistic that we'll be able to firm up the Nigerian chapter as soon as we kick off. Then for the teams, for the committees, I think looking at my personal strengths, and I think I'll be able to function more in the administrative committee. The first one that's to do with HR recruitment and all that.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mojide. Yeah, Chibuike, so we're excited to have you. Okay. So please, I just want to encourage everybody who hasn't joined on social media to do so. And also the organizational culture. I think one thing we needed to discuss is the organizational culture. What kind of organization we want to build. Because we don't want to have an organization that's redundant with, I mean, I'm talking about the steering committee, a board that's redundant, where people are not involved and are only riding on the work of others. So we need to figure out how many meetings. So this is our second meeting. Some people have not attended any. So how many meetings should somebody miss in order to consider the person, for us to sit down with the person and say, oh, okay, we realize that you're not, or you're too busy, you cannot be part of this committee or so and so and so. And therefore, we would like to excuse you from the steering committee. What do you guys think? From my experience on other boards, if somebody misses meetings consistently for 3 times consecutively, then usually that conversation is had with that person. So I just want to find out from all of us what we think, and then we can make a decision and it will apply.
I just wanted to ask, how many meetings are we having maybe in a month? I think it depends on the frequency.
So basically, from our previous meeting, we decided that every 2 weeks, because we're working on the policies, every 2 weeks we're going to have a meeting. So we meet twice a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 3. If you miss 3 meetings, then we can have a sit down.
Okay.
I don't know what the others think.
Lindsay is from South Africa. This is her first time joining us. Yeah, Mandy, sir.
Yeah, no, I agree with Yakuluntu. I think given that we're saying 3, I think we can have the sit down after the second one. Well, given after today's meeting, then perhaps we could just try to find out if, are you still part of this and so forth. And then, if the third meeting, the person is still not there, and then I think it would be fair to proceed and assume that the person will no longer be a part of the committee and perhaps to let them go. So yeah, that's what I think about it.
Okay. Thank you. Luntu, you've not been sworn in, so let me do that now. As the chair, I can swear new members in. Are you ready? So you can unmute your mic and you repeat after me.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going through the official oath of office for Voice1Africa Steering Committee. So I'm starting. So then you put your name there.
I, Yakuluntu Tubazana,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Pan-African agenda towards a strong, united, and progressive Africa.
And progressive Africa.
I solemnly declare to contribute wholeheartedly to the establishment of Voice1Africa across the African continent through fair and inclusive policies and actions. During my term, I will faithfully and impartially discharge the responsibilities of the office to the best of my ability.
to the best of my abilities.
So help me God.
Help me, God. Thank you.
So
I'm blessed to be part of Voice1Africa.
you're welcome to the
Thank you
steering
so much.
committee. So basically,
Thank
what we
you.
need to do is to, yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. You need to complete, we'll send you the oath, then you fill it completed and you sign and submit it to the email address to be filed officially. Okay.
Okay.
So what do you guys think? Do you think we need to come back and continue with the discussion, or we should call the meeting? I feel we've not really had a discussion today. I just presented the vision and all that. We've not really had a discussion. But what do you think? We have 1 minute to go.
For me, I think we should call it a day, and probably on the group we can look for tasks to give ourselves, especially according to the committees we have chosen to be in, that we can do in between our time, and then when we convene at the next meeting, we can submit whatever tasks we've been assigned to do and then discuss on them. That's my view.
Okay, so our next meeting is in 2 weeks. We'll communicate the date